Hey guys, welcome back for another video. So today, getting ready to start a new project. If you happen to see my last video where I did basically a complete refurb on this old brush hog, I mentioned that one of the next projects that I want to work on was basically reclaiming my septic field. So we've got, to kind of lay this out for you so you can see my house in the background, and then right here we've got two septic tanks. There's the main tank, and then there's a pump tank. So basically where we are here in kind of central, getting close to southern Iowa, we've got really thick gumbo clay ground. Some places there's topsoil, but when you get down kind of south of I-80, there's not a lot of good topsoil. It's a lot of clay. So a traditional septic system doesn't work in this area. So there's a few different types that they put in. What we have is a fairly simple mound system, which basically just means that when they, instead of a traditional system, they'll just lay their laterals, dig down however deep they dig down in the ground. But on a mound system, they basically lay the laterals on top of the ground. I think they put down a bed of pea gravel. They run your perforated pipe for your laterals, and then maybe some more pea gravel, and they basically just top it all with some decent topsoil. So your laterals are actually laying up on top of the ground. The topsoil that they put on the top is what actually filters the water out. And then you have to have two tanks with a pump, basically, because it's not just all gravity fed. So, we've never had any issues with it, and I think in general they work pretty well. But when I built our house, I didn't want these mounds to be in the backyard, so I had them actually bury them back here in the timber, which I'm glad because you can't see them. But I've kind of neglected this area. I usually try to get back here and basically just kind of mow off the mounds. I mentioned in the last video, I don't care about weeds and grass and stuff growing up on them. It's probably actually a good thing. But you start to, of course, over time, you start to get seeds, saplings, seedlings and stuff that kind of start to take over. And I don't want trees or anything with a, major deep root system growing on these mounds. In addition to that, and you can't even see where they're at now. This is so overgrown. This is ridiculous. So I've got to clean this out, which I'm going to start with the brush hog. I need to, probably one of the first things I need to do is I got a pile of crap, brush and rotten wood here that I need to get out of here. It's sort of in the way. So I need to see if I can get that burning. It's been raining for the last couple of days, so everything's really wet, but I think if I can get it started, we should be okay. I'm going to mow this off to get it opened up. And then the bigger project is I've got at least 4 dead trees out here. There's this one here, which is right. So I got one mound that goes this way, one mound that goes that way, and I've got this dead tree right in the middle, which I don't know why we ever left this thing in here. It was dumb. But I want to, well, anyway, so there's that one. That's the small one. I've got this one here, which you can see the vines and stuff growing up behind it. Is that poison ivy? No, that's Virginia creeper. Mostly. Hopefully there's no poison ivy in that one. That one needs to come down. I've got this great big old oak tree here, which you can see, which does have poison ivy coming up it, which needs to come down. That one there, smaller one off to the edge, is dead. And actually there's the great big one, and then the one behind it, actually, that one's dying too. It's not really in play. It's leaning enough that if it goes down, it's going to go the other direction, so I'm not too concerned about it. So anyway, I've got all these dead trees that, when you have a mound system like this, if you have one of these trees fall down and fall across one of your laterals, the lateral field is more susceptible to damage because it's up above the ground, and I don't want to have it snap a lateral and then I have to fix that. So I'm going to get these trees taken down so they go down the direction that I want, as opposed to the direction that the wind wants, which is, if the wind takes it down, it's going to go in a problematic direction. So most of these shouldn't be too big of a deal. This one here that's been dead for several years, it's super rotten, is actually leaning in a bad way. And because it's so rotten, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to do much to convince that thing to go in a different direction, but it's small enough that I don't think it's probably going to hurt anything. So I'm just going to drop it, I think. and we'll get it cleaned up. I did got the grapple on the tractor. For any of you guys that have a grapple, you know that this is, especially if you have a lot of trees like I do, grapple is the best implement ever invented for a tractor. Man, I love that thing. It's a back saver, and it does the work of about 10 men. So anyway, I think we'll first get this thing fired up, see if I can get this cleaned off a little bit. I think I'm gonna mow down here, kind of down around my burn pile so I can get in there. I don't even think I'm gonna bother to run a hose down here. Everything's so wet and green, that fire's not going anywhere if I can even get it started. So I'll kind of get myself a path around here first so I can get to it. I can access it from all sides, and we'll get to burning. Okay, now you can probably see this a little bit better. So you can definitely see there's two laterals here. You can definitely see that top mound, and the way this originally was laid, the land all just falls gradually down that direction. As you can see, it goes, there's a ravine down there. So this, what appears to be a flat spot, is actually that's the first lateral that they put in, and you can see how they mounted it up real. I think you can probably see that. Hard to see on camera, but you can see it's mounted up down there. And then I'm not exactly sure. The second lateral comes down here somewhere, and I'm not sure. I think it goes pretty much this way. So you can see the pipe on the end. I tracked these down the other day and hit them with a little orange paint, so I knew where they're at, so I didn't run them over. But anyway, that's the end of that lateral. Goes back, and then it, I don't know, at some point it goes back up to the tank. So anyway, good to get those mowed off. Now I can walk around in here. Like I said, any little trees that were growing up or kept at bay. So this guy here, man, that thing's rotten. It's been dead for a lot of years. And it wants to, it's got a pretty hard lean on it. It wants to fall right on top of that lateral there. I don't like. I forgot that I had an old wood pile here. It's so grown up with, I don't know, I call these ironweeds. I don't even really know what they're called, but it's from many years ago. That wood's all probably pretty much rotten. That tree wants to kind of fall this direction right toward me here. What I'm thinking, what I'm wondering about is if I could find a big log and lay it going the direction of the lateral here, so that when the tree comes down, it takes the full length of that log, actually takes the weight of the tree rather than one narrow spot where it can make a dent. I think that might work. So I'm gonna dig around here and see if I can find a decent sized log to use as to break the fall of this thing. And then I'll grab the saw and we'll get this thing out of here. Okay guys, update. So a couple things. I grabbed some of this old branchy logs from the pile over here, laid those across that lateral, so they'll take the weight of the tree falling. Plus it's gonna fall in my log pile back here actually too, so I'm not worried about it. That'll be fine. I grabbed my Echo power printer, the PAS 260, and I went up and I took off some of those branches up high. There was this side over here. I was kind of concerned the way this one was sticking that it could just go jam right into the lateral, so I knocked that off, and then I knocked a couple off the backside too. They're hanging over my head where I'm going to be cutting. I really don't trust this old tree, although the wood is actually still pretty hard. I'm not sure if that's oak or if that's red elm or what that is, but it's hard wood. So anyway, we're gonna drop this thing. Well, it's perfect. I was actually thinking it was going to tear out branches of those trees up there, but it hit the gap perfect. Landed right here on my protected branch. Couldn't have gone any better. I'll get this one sawed up. This is hard wood. Oak, I think that's oak. But anyway, it's down, so let's get it cut up. Alright guys, I thought I'd just mention if you're not, so I switched over the Echo PAS260, I switched over to my brush cutter head. If you're not familiar with these things, this is basically like, it's basically like a skill saw blade really. It's not exactly, but basically is what it is. And I've had that thing for over 10 years, and I've done more cutting with that than you can believe. Before I had a brush hog, that was my go-to method for cutting multiflora rows. And it'll easily cut, you know, 1-inch stuff with no problem. I've even cut couple-inch stuff if you just kind of hold it on there and use it like a saw. It's not really what it's intended for, but for brush, it just smokes through it. So got myself cleaned out underneath all these trees. I always want to make sure that I have good clearance, you know, that I can walk all around the trees before I start cutting anything, especially if they're kind of sketchy trees and I might need to bail out of the situation really fast. And then I also, those two over there aren't bad. There's some vines, but there's no poison ivy. But this one here, I think I showed you this earlier. So all that, this thing's 100% dead. All that green on that tree is all poison ivy. So I cut the vine right there, took off this chunk all the way down to the ground. So when I'm in here working around it, at least I won't get into poison ivy too bad. I'm sure I'll manage to get some because poison ivy loves me. And I decided too, this one tree that's sitting here, it's actually fine, green, but it's just a junk tree and it's got a codominant stem, as you can probably see there. I'm just gonna get rid of it. It doesn't serve any purpose and eventually it'll probably end up dying and then I'll just have to deal with it. So I might as well just take it down now. So I started a burn pile. I didn't get this pile started yesterday. This is all, it's been laying here just getting rained on, and it's a lot of bark and brush and just kind of a big wet thick mat, so I never did get that started with all the rain that we've had lately. So I'm just going to start a fresh burn pile up here, and I'll find some dry wood. Once I get this big stuff burning, then I can just throw that, you know, wet crap on top of here, and with a good hot fire everything will burn. So using the CS600P today. I may have to get out the 680 for that big tree, but I don't think so. I think my 24-inch bar will be fine. You might notice a general trend of orange equipment around my property. Not that I have a special affinity for the color orange or anything, but I am a big fan of Echo equipment, and of course Kubota as well. So let's go ahead and tip over this little tree, and then we'll start working on these ugly ones over here. Not sure if I mentioned this before, but these three that I'm going to drop over here, there's right back here in the timber, there's kind of a nice clearing. There's a ravine starts running through there. It's all kind of, I don't know, it's deer habitat actually. I'm blocking off a big deer trail back there that I don't like. I may have to come back, and after I drop these trees, I may have to open that deer trail back up, but I love my deer. But anyway, there's a nice opening there, so I think I can hit that opening with all these trees for the most part, so I'm not taking out any other trees. Those two should be relatively straightforward. This one here, the big poison ivy tree, obviously it's a big tree, and if you just stand here, okay, so here's you can see my, if I point down there, you can see where the end of my lateral is, the white PVC and the orange rebar. So if you just look at this tree, it looks like it'll drop perfectly about 4 or 5 foot to the south of that. However, when you look up, a lot of the weight of the tree actually curves over. A lot of the canopy's over to that side, and the actual stem itself actually goes to that side. So there's a lot of weight on this tree. It's kind of more to the north here, so I'm not loving that, but I think I'll still be okay. I should be able to hit that gap. And you know what? Worst case scenario, my concern is that it might kind of drop and pop. I don't think it will. I think it'll go straight down. Worst case scenario, you know what? If it hits the end of that lateral, I can dig that up and replace a little bit of PVC on the end. It won't be the end of the world. So I think I may get the drone out, put the drone in the sky so we get a bird's eye view of these trees coming down. All right, they're on the ground. Went really well. Hit the hole I was aiming for. Nice cuts. The big dog that I was a little bit worried about. Look at that. It's about 3.5 feet. Perfect. Now you can really see all that poison ivy crawling up that tree. Lovely. And the good news is I don't think they made it out far enough to block my main deer trail out there, so that's even better yet. So anyway, I think I'm just gonna leave these stumps long. There's really no reason to, it's a real kind of a bear to cut stumps off right at the ground. This way they're easy to see and I can mow around them easier, so I was gonna leave them. Now we just need to get a fire going, get this all burned up, and we'll be good to go. And then I just have to do a better job of staying on top of this thing, keeping it maintained so it doesn't get overgrown. But at least now all the trees that I have are good and healthy. You know, these, I should mention too, the reason these died, these oak trees are very, very sensitive to disturbing the ground anywhere near them. So, you know, when they were in here working, putting the septic system in, disturbing, you know, kind of the root system around the trees, they don't tolerate that. Every tree that we've had on the property that's had any kind of, you know, it's been driven on or anything like that, close to the tree itself, or they don't like lime, I found out too. Put it in a gravel driveway, oak trees don't like lime. So anyway, I've had a bunch that I've had to take down for that reason, but we're looking good now. So, hey, appreciate you guys watching. If you like watching content like this, do me a favor, subscribe to my channel. I've got lots more coming. I've got a lot more tractor work. This is just kind of an easy little task for that brush hog, but I bought an acreage that's got about 3 acres of big overgrown pasture that I'm gonna work over. Sorry, sun's probably in your eye. And so I'll give that a good working. I've got more trees to cut up. I've got trees. I've got a couple that I have to climb actually to take down because of where they're at. I can't drop them or they're gonna take out some other trees. So I'm gonna have to get out my climbing gear and take some trees down that way this fall once the weather cools off a little bit. So anyway, got a lot of projects coming up. So do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you in the next video.